Melanie, it's great to see you. We've had lockdown, we're trying to get used to the new normal, whatever that is, but you've continued to be very busy. Obviously, you're releasing your new album, Melanie C, on October the 2nd, but you've released a couple of singles. Yesterday was Fearless featuring Nadia Rose. Tell me about that.
Oh my goodness, it was so wonderful to work with Nadia. I adore her. For people who aren't aware of her work, she's a British grime artist, super talented, has a great attitude. And I had a chance meeting with her after DJing at a party, and I really wanted to get in the studio and see what came of it. And we spent some time together talking about what we wanted to create. And both being women in the industry, we thought it was interesting how we've had to overcome so many fears and be so brave to really try to achieve our dreams. And we wanted to be able to get that message across in a song. So Fearless was born. It's a beautiful song. It's quite laid back. The video is a bit Thelma and Louise. We're on this road trip. And it's just turned out beautifully. And we've had lovely comments from lots of people who are enjoying it so far. So it's one of the 4 videos I've made for this album. It's been interesting releasing music during lockdown, but it's really compelled me to create a lot of content to try to keep people entertained. So so this is the 4th single from the album, which is released in October.
And also you'll be doing some special virtual concerts October 1st and 2nd as well.
Yeah, that's probably the most difficult thing, I think, for any performer. You know, we're all missing being out there, connecting with people, being in a room together and sharing that experience. So we're trying to do the next best thing. So we've come up with an interesting concept. Visually, we want it to be very beautiful, a way of promoting and showcasing the new songs for everybody.
Melanie, what have been some of the biggest challenges for you personally during this COVID time?
Well, I think being a parent has been tough. Keeping people's spirits up. You know, I think for each of us, it's been challenging in many ways. And we've just tried to keep the kids motivated. I think at times it's been hard even to get them to go out and do that daily exercise, you know, that we could do when we were in the very tight lockdown. Keeping them motivated to do their schoolwork, you know, all that homeschooling. We've been talking about now my little girl's back at school. I am just so much more grateful for her teachers, what a wonderful job that they do. And I think for me, the pandemic, trying to draw positives, it is finding those things that maybe we've taken for granted in the past. You know, having our freedom, being able to travel, having our children at school, you know. So, yeah, I think it's just being able to stay positive has been the hardest thing.
How do you think that the pandemic will affect the music industry as a whole?
This is, you know, so worrying for so many industries. And of course, being a performer, the live industry is hit so hard. Venues, crews, you know, people who work in those environments. And, you know, we need to keep supporting. And I think it's so important to support new artists and the venues and everybody that works in that industry. So, yeah, I think we'll all have such an appetite to go out and have fun and to be entertained when we can. Theatre being exactly the same. So, yeah, I just hope that we can all look forward to do that in the not too distant future.
You talked before about working with Nadia Rose and overcoming a lot of the challenges that you both faced. You have been outspoken about what you suffered from depression, from an eating disorder, and yet everyone saw you as the most successful. You were at the Spice Girls at the time, global stardom.
Life is, you know, it's tricky, isn't it? We all go on these journeys and we all have these obstacles that we have to overcome. And I'd grown up with this incredible desire to work in music and to travel the world and to perform. And I don't think I ever thought about the downside. And life is such, there's good and bad in everything. But nothing can prepare you for being thrust into the public eye in the way that we were. I did have my issues and problems at the time, and I think it's hard, you know, to hear people's opinions of you, to be criticised, the way that you look, the way that you dress, on your talent or lack of it, whatever it may be. And I think just navigating that as a young person for me was very difficult. I have recovered and healed from those times, and I spent a lot of time being regretful for the things that I'd been through. And more recently, I actually feel very proud. I feel proud that I live to tell a tale, you know, and that's why it's so important to me to be outspoken about mental health issues, about eating disorders, because I think it's so important to just get rid of any of the stigma, which is happening more now. But I think as a person who has suffered, there's a lot of shame, embarrassment. You don't want to feel like a burden. And I just want to reach out to people so they don't feel alone and know that there is help out there. So yeah, it's something I'm happy that I've been able to speak about.
Do you think social media has an impact on the younger generation today? Because there seems to be a lot of body shaming and a lot of negative comments.
I think culture is ever evolving, you know, and I speak to my little girl. She's 11 years old. She's all over TikTok. She wants Instagram. Of course, you know, that whole world is opening up to her, which is petrifying as a parent. But it is the world they're growing up in, so we have to help them navigate it in the safest way possible. There is so much pressure, but the aesthetic has changed. You know, I remember growing up in the 90s where what we, you know, in our culture, what the beautiful aesthetic was being very, very thin, you know, but now we see a lot more images of strong, you know, physiques. And so there's a positive thing there. But now, obviously, so many more people are having plastic surgery. Everybody's using filters and people are using Facetune on things like Instagram. We're bombarded constantly with these images that aren't real. So I think we just have to be aware, and we just have to realise that, yeah, our kids are growing up in a very different time to the ones that we did.
Would you allow your daughter onto social media, do you think, Melanie?
I think it's impossible to avoid it. You know, there's so much pressure. Their friends are on it, you know, everybody's doing it. And I think as a parent, it's hard, you know, because I work in an industry where I have to have an understanding of it. A lot of people don't. But I think as a parent, you do need to try, and schools are very good at this, in my experience, really making parents aware of the dangers and what's appropriate and what's not.
You've got your own label, Red Girl. Why was that so important for you to have that? That was back in 2004.
Yeah, gosh, it's a long time ago. I'd had such an incredible time. I worked with Virgin Records with the Spice Girls and on my first 2 solo albums. And when that relationship came to an end, I had options, and I could have tried to sign with another major, maybe an independent. And I had the opportunity to start a label and to self-finance. And it felt very exciting to me because it gave me the most control I'd ever had over my career. And yeah, it was just a challenge. And luckily it's gone okay, you know, there's been ups and downs with it. But yeah, it works for me. And I think a lot more artists are looking at different ways to make music and to release music now. So yeah, that's really opened up.
When your album is released on October 2nd, do you feel that it's almost like a self-acceptance, that you've come full circle, that you are the woman that you want to be?
Do you know what? A lot of this album is really about that. I had an incredible time with the Spice Girls on stage last year, and that gave me an opportunity to really reflect on my time as a Spice Girl, who I am now, and everything in between. And I really wanted to express that through my music and through my work. And I definitely have found a new self-acceptance, and I want to empower people to have the same experience.
What was it like, Melanie, when you went on the tour with the other Spice Girls? I know there were the 4 of you didn't have Victoria with you, but what was it like to reconnect?
It was amazing. We always knew it was going to be fun, we were going to have a great time, but we never expected the level of love and support and energy night after night at those shows. It was incredible. And although sadly Victoria wasn't with us on stage, she was very much with us in spirit, and is very much still with us girls through everything. Was very on top of the creative. We wanted her to be very comfortable with everything. So we're still very much a 5-piece, even if Victoria's in the wings. For the moment.
For the moment, there we go. For the 25th anniversary, Melanie, do you think you could persuade her? Or what about performing at Glastonbury, all 5 of you?
We are working on it and working on her. You know what? We have, such a wonderful connection. We've had our ups and downs. We're like a family. We drive each other mad, but we care for each other so deeply that we are always talking about opportunities. And we're dreamers, we achieved this incredible thing and we never stop dreaming.
What about, I think recently you went for a walk, the five of you. What was that like? And were you reminiscing about the heady days of the Spice Girls?
We love a good old reminisce. And what's wonderful about getting together is we all remember different things. So we kind of piece together what happened because I've forgotten so much. So it gives us an opportunity to have a good old laugh and really catch up. It was just as the lockdown rules had eased and we were all in the same place at the same time, which is quite rare. So we really just wanted to check in with each other. We made a rule. There was no business to be spoken about. We just wanted to have that time together.
When you look back now, what advice would you give the young Melanie C, just starting out in the Spice Girls?
Wow, I think I'd say just enjoy every minute and really try to be present. I think it's so hard because you're so busy and you're all over the place and sometimes you're in survival mode. But I would just say it's a wonderful life, so really appreciate it.
And what's your message now for those that will be listening to the singles you've released and also to your album? What would you like them to take away from it?
Oh, you know what I've learned over the years? I think so many of us are so cruel to ourselves. We speak to ourselves, we have this internal dialogue, and we'd never, ever dare speak to anybody in the way we speak to ourselves. And I have really tried to change that for myself, and it's such a discipline, but it truly changes your life if you can be kind to yourself, both in the way you treat yourself and the way you speak to yourself. So I just want to empower people to just be who they are and to feel like they are enough because you are enough. And I think too many of us don't believe that.
What do you say to your daughter when she sees you up on the stage with 80 to 100,000 people screaming your name? What does she think about it?
I think she was a little bit overwhelmed when she saw me on stage with the Spice Girls, but it only took her about 4 shows in to get quite blasé about the whole thing. But I've always tried to introduce things as she's grown up, so it's felt quite normal to her. It's her normal that mum's a Spice Girl. Of course, it's completely and utterly bizarre, but she seems to be quite balanced. She's very proud of me on one hand and very embarrassed of me on the other, which I think is very normal and healthy for an 11-year-old girl.
And did becoming a mum change you, Melanie?
Becoming a mum changed me in more ways than I ever imagined. It made me, I think, a better person, a stronger person. It made me be better to myself. I think that was where the journey began, in me really appreciating my body, myself, my ability, and also the responsibility, becoming a teacher to this perfect, new human on the planet. So I recommend it to everybody.
Melanie, the Spice Girls, of course, have always been about empowerment and also being very patriotic as well. And I'm thinking, of course, of the wonderful, the British flags that Jerry would wear. Do you have a feeling about Brexit, and do you feel still proud to be British?
Oh, wow. That's a big old question. Of course, myself and the Spice Girls, we were very proud to fly the British flag around the world and to be a girl band in the 90s. To have that international acclaim was quite rare. So we were very, very proud to be able to do that. We're in very, very strange times. And personally for me, Brexit is so far down on the agenda right now for me. I think with the pandemic and everything we are experiencing there, in some ways I do feel more connected to the whole world. In my profession, I am able to travel and I do love feeling like a global citizen. So I just, I'm a believer in unity. So take from that what you will.
And do you look forward to going back to performing live and having your audience in front of you? And do you think you'll be able to do that in 2021?
I have everything crossed. I have a tour booked in Europe, end of April, beginning of May. please, that is able to happen. But if not, as soon as I can, as soon as things are safe, I will be out there touring this record. It's what drives me. It's my passion. It's why I make music. Love travelling, love getting out there to see the fans. So that's definitely on my agenda as soon as I can do it safely.
Melanie C, thank you so much and best of luck with the new album.
Thank you so much. Lovely to speak to you.